Good morning everyone. I'm Ankit and you're watching StudyIQ IS English channel. This is Indian Express analysis for 2nd of September. So yes, it is September and we all have woken up, right? But we'll wake up at the end of the September. Now, in our today's discussion, we'll be covering 6 important topics. The first topic is the one that we had left out yesterday. It is about India's deep ocean mission and development of a submersible submarine known as, give me a second, known as Matsya 6000, right? Any idea what does Matsya mean in Hindi? This is an article relevant from science and tech perspective. It particularly deals with how India would harness its blue economy. Blue economy is economy relating to waters, right? Good morning everyone. Second article, we are going to talk about a ultra supercritical technology which is essential to reduce the amount of greenhouse gas emission from the thermal power sector, and this technology is important if India has to meet its targets relating to nationally determined contributions or the climate change targets. Now this technology is used to reduce the overall impact of thermal power plants, but it also adds to the cost of power generation. So in that regard, we'll discuss the importance of AUSC technology, what are the importance and what are the challenges. This again mirrors to science and tech, but it also deals with or cursory deals with issues of economy as well as environment, right? So this is a multi-dimensional topic that we are going to cover in our today's discussion. In the third article, we are going to understand important points in the Tianjin declaration of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Now, this declaration became important because this organization, which includes India, China as well as Pakistan, gave a very damning criticism or the damning condemnation of the Pahalgam terror attacks. So how this happened, what is the significance of this declaration for India's relationship with China? That is what we are going to cover in our today's discussion. But you need to understand, without covering SEO, that discussion becomes immaterial. So I will also tell you important points related to SEO, because in case if the future question appears in prelims, you will be sorted to cover the questions relating to SEO. Now this is relevant from GS paper 2 perspective because it deals with matters relating to INR. First is important from GS paper 3. Second is also important from GS paper 3, right? The fourth article, which is also closely related to SEO, is a global security initiative. This is an initiative led by China, and countries like Nepal, they are wanting to join this security initiative. So what is this security initiative we are going to talk about? Is India part of this initiative? If not, then who are the members who are part of this initiative? What it wants to do? Everything we are going to cover in our today's discussion, and this is relevant from GS paper 2 topic, again with the virtue of IR relations. In the fifth topic, we are going to understand how does Digipin will have an impact on the postal system of our country. Now these days, whenever you have to order any parcel from e-commerce, the important thing that you write in your addresses are the PIN code, which essentially is the PIN code that is given to the post office in charge of your area, right? But in addition to that, there is also a thing called Digipin, which is going to come in the near future. And this Digipin includes the geographical location of your particular plot or your house or your land. So it will help the postal people or help the courier delivery people to help deliver your parcel with accuracy, right? So that is how Digipin would be introduced in India. What are the benefits? What are the challenges? We are going to cover. And this is again relevant from economy as well as science and technology. In the last article, if the time permits, we are going to cover the concept of purchasing power parity, and it is expected that India's economy on the basis of purchasing power parity would become the world's second largest economy in near future. So we are going to understand these 6 topics in detail. The last one is relevant from economy, hence important from GS paper 3 perspective. Let me see who all have come. Let me show you. Give me a second. Anuj Kumar, Johar, Arjun Sarkar, good morning. Arya, good morning. Bulbul, Morang Them, love from Manipur. How are things in Manipur? I hope it's much better now. Gaurav, Sojanya, good morning. Long time Sojanya. Bulbul, Fia, what is Fia? Santwana, good morning. Venkat, good morning. How are things in Tamil Nadu? Venkat, you're the one from Nagarcoil, right? Vinodini, good morning. Jui, good morning. Reshma, good morning. Not very important, Venkat. The abbreviation, government and its politicians have a habit of using abbreviations for their advantage to make the speech look good and make it go viral. But these kind of usage of abbreviations outside the official name is not important from your exams perspective. Dodamani, good morning. Shravan Dodamani, good morning. Yashi, good morning. Venkat, you're the one from Nagarcoil, if I can recall. So, how are things at your cities, everyone? I hope the weather is doing all right. It rained entire evening and last night in Delhi. I hope it would be good at your place. It was nice in the morning. So when I came back to I came to the office in the morning now at 6:30. It was no rains at my homes and no rains near the office also. I don't know about outside right now. Okay, oh, you're near Chennai. Okay, Villupuram is near to the Sri Perumbudur or in the different side of Chennai, towards the Pondicherry region. Well, I studied in Vellore, so Chennai was a common place through which I would transit. Very hot and humid last few days in Guwahati. Okay, Benji, you're from Guwahati. Good morning. Well, it's very nice weather in Delhi. I don't remember the last time I slept without AC. I slept without AC yesterday because it was very cold. And I was covering myself with a bed sheet, so you can understand how cold it must be. Now the notes of this session as usual will be available on this Telegram channel, ATS Live, so you can go and download the notes as soon as the session ends. I'll get it uploaded as soon as possible. Let us start with the first article. This is from last week. It talks about Samudrayan, where India's aquanauts are looking to explore the deepest corners of ocean, right? Now, why is this news or why is this relevant? Because earlier this month, 2 Indian aquanauts, they undertook a deep sea mission in the Atlantic Ocean on board a French vessel, which was looking to train them to be used ultimately in the India's Samudrayan project. Now, in India's Samudrayan project, Indian government wants to develop a submersible which can go as deep as 6,000 meters. You can understand 6 kilometers deep into the water. So, the technical requirements of making those submarines would be very high. You know how much depth do the best and bestest of military submarines go? Any idea? The depth in which military submarines usually travel is 300 meters. Now let us imagine how technically difficult it would be to develop a submarine that can travel so deep inside the ocean. You can imagine the amount of water pressure that submarine would be subjected to, right? So that understands the scale of effort we are going to do in the India's Samudrayan project. So what is India's Samudrayan project, you might think? We will discuss this in our today's discussion. Now, Samudrayan is a key initiative under the larger scheme of Deep Ocean Mission. Now, this scheme wants to explore the ocean depths up to 6,000 meters using a manned submersible vehicle known as Matsya 6000. Can anyone tell me the meaning of Matsya? What is the meaning of Matsya and significance in Indian history? Any idea? Now, Matsya was the first avatar of Lord Vishnu on earth, and it has been the avatar where he was born in a form of fish, right? So Matsya is the name of the fish, so it has been appropriately named as Matsya 6000, basically a submersible that can travel deep into the water, right? All of you are right. Now India will also join an elite group of countries when it develops this submarine, which includes US, Russia, China, France and Japan, who have conducted successful crewed deep sea missions, right? Now the Samudrayan mission, what it wants to do and what it seeks to develop. Now it wants to enhance India's capability of deep sea research. Now right now our ability to map the deepest part of the ocean is not at the levels of other countries. So we need to have that ability, for which we require such kind of submersibles. Also, we need to know what is the presence of living and non-living ocean resources at the deepest part of the oceans. Most important, the polymetallic nodules. Now, these polymetallic nodules are the nodules which consist of important metals and non-metal resources. And if we can mine them, we can harness them, we can actually deal away with many of the challenges that we now face. It also includes that there is also possibility that polymetallic nodules might conduct or might have rare earth minerals. They might also have certain critical minerals. So when we are able to find it, when we are able to mine it, then only we will be able to harness our resources. So for that, assessment of the resources are very important. Using the submersible Matsya 6000, we can do so. Similarly, it also strengthens our ocean observation systems. Now, ocean observation is very important for civilian as well as for military purposes. Now, for civilian purposes, you need ocean observation to understand the patterns of fish. Where are the fish most present and where fish is not present? You need to understand the health of marine biology. You also need to understand the changes in the temperatures and pressures of water, which will help you understand how it will impact the climate of the region as well as monsoon. So this is the civilian importance of the ocean observation system. Similarly, you also need the idea of your oceans, so that in case if any foreign country sends its military ship or submarines into the region, you have the ability to track them. You should also have the ability to identify the sensors that other countries might have planted in your oceans, and you can do so using the Matsya 6000 submersible. So it has both civilian and military application, as I've told you. Similarly, we also are looking to explore the potential of deep sea tourism in the future. Now, let us imagine you're a billionaire and you want to deep dive into the ocean. You can do so by taking in many deep diving events in Atlantic and Pacific, but there is no similar option in the Indian Ocean region. Why? The largest country in the Indian Ocean region, India, does not have that capability. So suppose if we develop such submarines and transfer this technology to private sector, it can open a new avenue for deep sea tourism and scuba diving also in the India's ocean. Right? So this is the objective and opportunities this scheme wants to do. Now this is the Matsya 6000, which has been wet tested recently. Whenever you develop a ship or submarine, you first of all test it on a dry region. Then you put it in water and then you test how easily it is able to navigate in the water. So it has been subjected to wet test recently. So therefore it is in testing process, and let's see how it can be commissioned quickly. Now Matsya 6000 is a fourth generation self-propelled human-rated deep ocean submersible. Now, whenever a submersible has to carry a human, it has to be certified by respective authorities whether it can safely carry humans or not. So, whenever it gets the human-rated rating, then only you can send people in it. Similarly, it has been developed by a Chennai-based Ocean Institute, National Institute of Ocean Technology, NIOT Chennai, and it has successfully completed, as I've told you, wet testing. And the endurance or the ability of this submersible to stay in water is 12 hours during normal mission, and in emergency situation it can carry the occupant safely for up to 96 hours, that is 4 days. So you can imagine the endurance of this is quite high. Now the deep ocean mission has been undertaken by Ministry of Earth Sciences, which was launched in 2001 with a 5-year completion target. The purpose of this mission is to explore deep ocean resources and develop indigenous technology for sustainable utilization of these resources, and it wants to support the goals of blue economy. Blue economy means the goals that we can use to harness water-based resources, be it fishing, be it mining, be it other avenues, including water tourism. Now the challenges of this mission are also very high. For suppose to develop this kind of technology, you need to develop that vehicle which should be able to withstand huge amount of pressure. So it should withstand 600 times of the atmosphere pressure, and for that you use titanium alloy sphere which has precision welding. So the technology requirement is very high. Similarly, you need to provide a livable environment to the people or aquanauts who will be on board this vehicle. You'll have to maintain 20% of oxygen inside, remove their carbon dioxide with scrubbers, and use rebreather units in case of emergencies when you don't have supply of fresh oxygen. Similarly, aquanauts' health and safety is of a grave concern. The people who are going to be on board of this vehicle, they have to be on their peak fitness, and their water and food take has to be very limited, that they will live on dry fruits during their 9-hour test. Similarly, at this depth, there are also communication barriers because radio becomes unusable. You can use acoustic telephone which has developed, and it has worked only after overcoming salinity and temperature based issues, which is very common in the oceans. So to overcome these challenges, we'll have to face many difficulties, and India is at the right place to do that. Okay. Now let's see how many of you are able to solve this question. Yes, India is not the first country, I've told you, it is the 6th country. First one is straightforward, right? So option A is the right answer. Moving to this second article, it talks about advanced tech coal power project is on the back burner. Again, why? Because of the cost related issues. So what is this advanced tech we are talking about? The government is reconsidering its plan to set up power plants based on advanced ultra super critical technology due to its high initial cost. Now, what is the problem relating to our energy sector? Any idea? Now, about our 55% installed capacity and about 70% power generation, it comes from thermal power. And majority of our thermal power stations, not all, but majority of them are powered by coal. And you know, coal is a substance that emits a large amount of greenhouse gases. So this is the present state of power sector in India. On the other hand, we have become environmentally conscious. And due to our environment consciousness, what we want to do is that to control global warming, we want to reduce the emission of greenhouse gases. And for that, we are looking to adopt more and more renewable energy. But what about all the thermal power plants that you are operating right now? First of all, there are problems with renewable energy. Even if you install renewable energy, those are intermittent in nature, which means wind power is generated only when the wind speed is high, and solar power is only generated whenever there is a high insolation of sunlight. Let us imagine the colder months or monsoon months. You won't generate as much as solar power as compared to summer months. So that is why the renewable energy projects are more intermittent in nature. So to provide base load, to provide continuous load, you have no other option but to rely on thermal power. But the problem with thermal power is emissions of greenhouse gases. So to deal with thermal power or to keep thermal power plants running, we are looking at technologies that should reduce the overall greenhouse gas emissions in the thermal power sector. And this is with the use of supercritical technology, ultra supercritical technology and advanced ultra supercritical technology, which wants to reduce the overall greenhouse gas emissions of the thermal power sector. So that is why we are using this technology. But you know, installing new systems or upgrading the systems require a lot of money, and that is why government is somewhat afraid of this. Now let us talk about what is this advanced ultra supercritical technology, AUSC technology. It refers to next generation coal based thermal power plants that operate at a very high steam temperatures, as high temperature as 700 and with a high pressure of above 300 bar of pressure. Now it is more advanced as compared to supercritical as well as ultra supercritical technologies. So just like Apple iPhone, a normal iPhone is like iPhone 16, 17. The upgraded version is iPhone Plus, then iPhone Pro, then iPhone Pro Max or Pro Ultra, or Samsung Galaxy S24, S25, S25 Plus, S25 Ultra. Similarly, the above technologies has been given ultra, super, advanced ultra, super, right? So you can understand the somewhat better technology supercritical, then comes ultra supercritical, then comes advanced ultra supercritical. So you know the pecking order of technologies now. Now, why is this technology used? First of all, this plant can achieve overall 46% efficiency, which is high as compared to supercritical, subcritical, supercritical and ultra supercritical. So subcritical plants, they achieve efficiency of 38%. The more efficiency you get as the waters of the or the temperatures that you are able to get becomes higher. So therefore these have somewhat greater 2 to 3% efficiency as compared to the ultra supercritical temperature, and higher efficiency means you require less coal to generate the same amount of power or electricity. So therefore a high efficient plants would burn lesser coal, and therefore it will reduce the emissions of greenhouse gases. Understood? So this is how we want to upgrade the technology to reduce the amount of coal and get higher efficiency. Well, do you think it is possible for us to scale up the nuclear power plants at a very short amount of time as compared to thermal power plants? What is better, upgradation of existing power plants or creation of newer power plants? And do you think it is very easy for us to source a nuclear fuel, plutonium and uranium? Because we don't have that. We have coal. So we can use coal in a much more efficient manner and reduce our emissions rather than relying on other countries to supply us uranium and plutonium, right? So we are using resources at our disposal. घर का दीवार खराब होता है तो what do you do? Whenever the wall of your house goes bad, what do? You change your house or you do your painting. You do your painting, right? So that is how we are using existing resources. Shirt फट गया तो क्या करवाते हैं? We go to a tailor so that it can mend it, right? We don't buy a new shirt straight away. So upgradation is a better way to do that, and we are doing that. Now about environmental technology, it provides environmental benefits. It reduces emissions of CO2 by about 10 to 15%, and it cuts down other pollution since the fuel consumption or the consumption of coal is lower. Similarly, it requires special alloys like nickel-based, chromium-based alloys which can withstand high temperatures and pressure. Therefore, you'd require a lot of amount of money because this special alloy comes at a cost. And it also involves advancement in the technology of boiler, turbines as well as heat exchanger design. And all of this requires large amount of money, and that is why government is afraid of this. Now imagine if government does not have the money or is afraid of spending this much amount of money on coal power or thermal power. Imagine how much it would be afraid to set up a new nuclear power plant. Nuclear power plant are much more expensive as compared to thermal power plant. You know why I know that? One of my electives in college was nuclear power engineering. So solve this question. This was an easy question. I know this was an easy question. Baga, long time no see. Yes, Chandrakishore, you are also right. चंद्रकिशोर, मुझे तुम्हारा नाम से याद करके विधायक का नाम आता है फ्रॉम पंचायत. द पंचायत, द विधायक नेम इज चंद्रकिशोर सिंह. When he threatens the Sachivna, he says, मैं भी चंद्रकिशोर सिंह हूं. What happened, Baga? Let me know in the mail, okay? Mail me what is your problem. Why is option B incorrect? Can anyone let me know? Yes, good. It is somewhat lesser than this. So UPSC ever won't ask you get it is going to give you a figure which is 100% incorrect, right? Whenever it wants to make a statement incorrect, it will give you a figure which is much away from the existing figure. Yes. Now whosoever has not liked this video, now is the right time to like this video, because when you like the video na, it gets a higher impression. Higher impression means whenever people are going to scroll through their YouTube, the chances of that video to appear on their screen is higher. That is called as impression of YouTube videos. And when you like more, when you comment more on the video, the impression of the video gets higher. So that is why I ask you to comment and like the video. I know you all like the session, but you also have to like the video, okay? Now third article, I've taken the screenshot of explained section, but this is all there in the today's newspaper, even on the front page. It talks about significance of the Pahalgam reference in the SCO's Tianjin declaration. Okay. So the leaders of SCO, they strongly condemned the terrorism in all forms, including an explicit mention of the Pahalgam terror attack, which took place in Jammu and Kashmir in April, and we know the consequence of this terror attack, which led to Operation Sindoor. Now the declaration, it stated that perpetrators, organizers, sponsors of such attacks must be brought to justice, and this becomes significant, especially at that point where countries like China, who have supported Pakistan in their terrorist activities, and countries like Pakistan who perpetrate these terrorist activities are a part of SCO. So that is why this is a notable development. Similarly, if the earlier meeting of SCO is considered, where defense ministers used to meet, which happened in June, it did not include a Pahalgam terrorist attack in its statement, and that is why India's Raksha Mantri, the official designation of defense minister in India, is Raksha Mantri or RM. So India's Raksha Mantri, Mr. Rajnath Singh, refused to sign this draft because it did not include a mention of Pahalgam. So there must be something significant that happened in the month of June till September right now, which led to inclusion of this kind of an incident or terrorist attack in the declaration. What is the significance? We'll discuss it. But first, let us discuss what is Shanghai Cooperation Organization, because without mentioning the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, if we get into details, so the students who have not attended the previous lecture, they'll be disadvantaged. So bear with me, I'll take very less amount of time. Now the first thing that you'll have to remember about Shanghai Cooperation Organization is that the headquarters of SCO is not there in Shanghai, where it is located in the capital city of China, that is Beijing. So this is the first thing that you'll have to remember. Second thing, that it started as an organization known as Shanghai 5, which included Kazakhstan, China, Kyrgyzstan, Russia and Tajikistan. So out of these 5 countries, major powers were China and Russia, and these 3 were the Chota Gundas of Russia. Okay, so you have seen that movies like wherever a big Gunda arrives, there is with him the smaller Gundas. So Russia is a big Gunda here, and smaller Gundas are like these countries who were once the part of Soviet Union. Similarly, in 2001, after addition of another Gunda of Russia, Uzbekistan, it led to creation of Shanghai 5, which was later renamed to Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And in 2017, in Astana, which is the capital city of Kazakhstan, India and Pakistan officially joined SCO as the full-fledged members of SCO. So what you will have to remember, India and Pakistan, they were not the founding members of SCO, neither was Uzbekistan. Founding members are the members called as Shanghai 5. Okay. Now whenever a body which is mainly dominated by communist countries like China and Russia, whenever these bodies function, you will have to understand the aims and objectives of those bodies will be very lofty. Badi baatein karenge. So see what the Shanghai spirit talks about. Shanghai spirit is what that provides core value or core guidance to SCO. It talks about mutual trust, mutual benefit, equality, consultation, respect for cultural diversity, pursuit of common development among SCO member. How this spirit translates into reality, that is a different question. But I am talking about objectives. Here they will give you very lofty objectives. Whenever you will see the joint statements given by China and Pakistan, few years back it was going to mention that our relation is higher than the highest mountain, deeper than the deepest ocean. So this kind of lofty words are very frequent when it comes to communist regimes. These communist countries, they have a separate ministry called as Ministry of Propaganda, which ministry is responsible for advertising of the government's job, and they also have to control their ministries and control the overall, yes, freedom of speech and expression. Now the current members of SCO includes China, Russia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, India, Pakistan, and later on Iran and Belarus were added in 2023 and 24. So these 2 are the latest members. I have created a mnemonic that you can remember. Turk, pick, IB. So you can remember Turkish citizen was picked up by Intelligence Bureau. So this is the abbreviation that you can remember about the members of SCO. Now this SCO also includes 3 observer states and 6 dialogue partners. Their names are not important. What is important are the names of the members, and I've given you the mnemonic. Pick Turk IB. So Turkish citizen has been picked up by Intelligence Bureau. Let's imagine that Turkish citizen must be selling ice creams. That ice cream wale hote na, Turkish ice cream, that don't get you grab the ice creams. Now the working language of SCO does not include Hindi, it includes Russian and Chinese. So the SCO secretariats work in Russian and Chinese, basically Mandarin language, okay. Now let us understand structure of SCO. Now this meeting was Council of Head of States and Council of Head of Governments, which is the apex and second most important body in the working of SCO. Similarly, there are two permanent bodies in SCO. First is the Secretariat, which is headquartered in Beijing, and second is RATS, which is headquartered in Tashkent in Uzbekistan. Tashkent is although famous in Indian history for some other purpose. Can you recall it? That was a very painful event for India. Why is Tashkent very famous? What happened in Tashkent? After 1965 war, Pakistan and India decided to sign a ceasefire and a peace agreement in Tashkent, where India's Prime Minister then Lal Bahadur Shastri ji has travelled. But unfortunately, he died there under mysterious circumstances. So that is why Tashkent is somewhat very famous in Indian history for this unfortunate event. Now this also includes Council of Ministers of Foreign Affairs, Defence Ministers, National Council Coordinators, SCO Business Council. So it also includes interaction of businesses among these countries. Similarly, there is also an SCO Interbank Consortium, which is a grouping of different central banks of these countries, right? So this is how the interaction between different levels of the government happens. At the top level, between presidents and prime minister, between foreign ministers, defense ministers, finance ministers, board of governors or the governors and heads of central banks and businesses. So that is why it has taken a very wide approach. Now major goals and objectives, what Shanghai Cooperation Organization wants to achieve. First of all, it wants to strengthen relations among member states, and this can be true because India and China, they have not gotten well together, but because of many geopolitical considerations, now India and China have tried to resolve their differences, and therefore you can say it helps to strengthen relations among member nations. Similarly, it also helps in promoting cooperations in political affairs, economics, trade, scientific, various different domains. Also, it safeguards regional peace, security and stability, and it creates a democratic, equitable international political and economic order. Any idea what it is trying to signify in this declaration or in this objective? Which body it is trying to target here? Bodies like IMF, bodies like World Bank, bodies like WTO, which is a Western-led body, and it has been argued that these bodies, although in name they highlight that they follow democratic principles, but in these bodies the majority weighting percentage or voting weightage is given to more developed and Western economies, right? So that is why it is going to target Western bodies. And for India's perspective, as I told you yesterday, despite being fourth largest economy right now, India only has a 2.75 voting percentages in IMF. Do you think it is right? No, right? So this highlights that these countries are discriminating against a developing country like India. So that is why India also needs a body like Shanghai Cooperation Organization, whose principle is in line with Indian objective. Indian objective is to get equitable treatment in the international political sphere and follow a democratic economic order, which it is not getting from these institutions. So that is why India also joins these kind of institutions like BRICS, like SCO. Now coming to the importance of this body. Now this body is very important. First of all, the countries which are included in it, that adds to 24% of the area of the world, and the population, it includes world's two most populous countries. So more than 1/3 of the population, as much as 42% of the population are covered in the 10 members of SCO. Similarly, in 2024, its combined nominal GDP accounted for 23%, whereas if you account for PPP GDP, it accounted for more than 1/3 of the global GDP, that is 36%. So you can, any mains related question when it comes, you can start your questions with these kind of answers or these kind of introductions, okay? Now, why is the mention of Pahalgam attack significant for India? First of all, it highlights that Indian diplomats or the Indian Foreign Services officer who wants to be an IFS officer, let me know. Now, these have been able to highlight India's case in a very good manner to the negotiators of other countries. And this rarely acknowledges that India-centric terrorism or terrorism which affects India has taken a center stage at a global body, which includes also the perpetrator of terrorism. Similarly, mentioning of cross-border terrorism aligns with India's objective to combat cross-border terrorism. What is India's global demand everywhere? That it wants the countries to help itself to help and counter the terrorism which emanates from countries like Pakistan. So for that, the cooperation of other countries becomes very essential, and here the cross-border mentioning of terrorism becomes very important. Similarly, it also highlights that China is looking to shift its anti-India policy. It is looking to accommodate India's concern after the Pahalgam terrorist attack so as to mend this strained ties which has affected the trade of China with respect to India. So China and India both are facing problems with US when it comes to tariff and trade. So they are looking to avoid US and try to trade among themselves, which is a smart thing to do in current circumstances. So this is what it is significant for India. Now, let us understand why this becomes significant. First of all, China's track record hasn't been very good when it comes to combating terrorism. Whenever India tried to enlist many of the terrorist perpetrators in the global list of terrorist people, China blocked India's attempts. It reportedly blocked India's decision to list Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Masood Azhar as an individual responsible for terrorists. Similarly, it also blocked listing of Lashkar-e-Toiba Sajid Mir in 2023. Many times it has also tried to shield Pakistan by providing a diplomatic count and using veto power in United Nations Security Council to prevent actions against Pakistan. Similarly, as I've told you, both of these countries share an all-weather partnership where Pakistan has made heavy investments in China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which is a part of Belt and Road Initiative of China, right? So that is why China in the very near history has provided support to Pakistan, and that is why this shift in China's policy becomes significant. Now, what will be the geopolitical implications of this move? First is that India-China's relationship is looking to improve because of the reference made in Pahalgam, and both of the countries are wanting to reduce the tensions with each other. Why do you think India wants to reduce tensions with China, except the American angle, obviously? Well, I will cover Panchsheel, no need to worry, Kharbudon. It is a big discussion. Panchsheel is basically the themes based on which our policies is there with the other neighboring countries, primarily China. Any idea why, as an India wants to mend its relationship with China? Now imagine you as an Indian government or as an Indian finance minister or prime minister. You know that the western border is always in tension. Pakistan nation does not care about its development, all it cares about troubling India. So you know our safety obligations or security obligations with respect to western border will always stay. Now imagine a situation where we have deployed a huge amount of military on the western border and China commits an aggression. So you also need to defend your northern boundary, which would lead to large amount of spending on defense related expenditure. And Chinese boundary major territories are in a very extreme climatic region. So the amount of money that you have to spend, the amount of hardship that your soldiers are facing is quite high. So for India, it makes a pragmatic sense for India to cool down tensions with China so that we can focus more on western borders. And at the same time, when relations between these two countries, India and China, would be good, it would help focus, or it would help India to focus more on dealing with western related challenges, right? So that is why it is a smart move for right now. India obviously does not trust China, but for now it can reduce the amount of deployment that is there in the borders just by cooling off the tensions. Guess. Now the limits of cooperation, there is no explicit mention of Pakistan's role in this terrorism. So China is unlikely to dilute its geostrategic partnership with Pakistan. So this is basically a symbolic move, not a very substantial move of China. Please do not get it mistaken by that. Now answer the correct questions here. Not urea, phosphatic fertilizers. Yes, that is also the reason. We are facing shortages of fertilizers and we need fertilizers. So we are very cautiously dealing with Pakistan, with China. We are giving them something, and in return we are also asking them something for us. You know what India did? In 2021, in 2020 or 21, India introduced an amendment in FDI policy. The amendment in FDI policy meant that any investment coming from India's neighboring countries, any investment or any foreign investment coming from neighboring countries would have to be approved by government. That government's approval is necessary before you can take investment from an India's neighboring country. Any idea which neighboring country we are targeting through this FDI policy? Which neighboring country has the potential to invest in India? Does Pakistan, does Sri Lanka, does Nepal, does Bangladesh have that potential? No. So we were indirectly targeting China. Now China in past few years had made significant investments in Indian economy, be it in automobile sectors where they had made investments by bringing MG Motors into India, be it electronic sector where big companies like Oppo, Vivo, OnePlus operate. You know, Oppo, Vivo, OnePlus, Realme and iQOO. All of them belong to same company known as BBK Electronics. Similarly, they have also made significant investments in developing of metro trains in India. So what India did, that these companies were operating and their parent companies were based in China. So to function or to make capital investments, these companies would want continuous inflow of funds from their foreign based entities, which are Chinese headquartered companies. So what India did, it brought a change in FDI policy by wanting the government approval before any foreign investment can be made even in Chinese companies. So MG's parent company, which is located in China, wanted to make an investment in India's MG entity. But government did not give the approval. Government said, we are not going to give approval. They just sat without rejecting the approval. So it led to delayed investment in MG. So MG Motors was short of funds. It was not able to expand its capacity. Therefore, it suffered when it came to making investment and getting a more market share. And that is why MG had no other option but to sell a part of its ownership to an Indian company known as GSW. Similarly, Oppo, Vivo, OnePlus, they also wanted to expand their factories capacity to make more and more mobile phones. But they were not able to get investments from their parent Chinese companies because of this FDI policy. Wherever the approval went to government, government did not give the approval. It basically sat down on that approval. So it created problems for Chinese companies operating in India, and who they went running to the government of China. So this basically forced the Chinese government to come to negotiating table when it comes to India. Understood? So this is how bureaucracy functions. What is the one of the biggest problems with bureaucracy? That they are slow in decision making. And see how they have weaponized this decision making to the advantage of India's security. Got this? So this is what India did. Now solve this question. मजा आया सुन के कहानी? Well, I basically don't go out of the domains of our discussion, but today I thought it is necessary for you to understand why has China changed so much. Don't think so. Emperor Xi Jinping had an epiphany. Well, in 2014, Mr. and Mrs. Xi Jinping had come to India. So Prime Minister Modi took them to Ahmedabad, and there was a very famous picture in front of Sabarmati waterfront where all these three were sitting on a swing. So at that time, one of the DD news anchors said that the name of Xi Jinping was 11th Jinping. So she called him 11th Jinping. And as a result, she got removed from her job. So see how foolish people can be. You can be a big news anchor in the state news channel and still pronounce Xi Jinping as 11th Jinping. And she was fired from her job, rightly so, because this kind of a mistake that you do on job, it's unforgettable or unpardonable. India became the full member of SCO in 2017. SCO was formed initially as a security alliance to counter NATO. Is it right? Obviously incorrect. The official languages of SCO are English and Russian. Incorrect. It is Mandarin, that is Chinese or Russian. So only one is right. Only one is the right answer. Now coming to this next article, this talks about Nepali PM KP Sharma Oli, who has extended support to a Chinese-led global security initiative. So what is this global security initiative that the Nepali PM is talking about while attending the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit? Now, the Global Security Initiative or Global Security Alliance is an alliance proposed by Chinese President Xi Jinping, not Levin Jinping, Xi Jinping. He proposed this at Bao Forum in Asia. The aim of this grouping was to present an alternative security framework led by China to counter US-led alliances like NATO and AUKUS. Any idea what is an AUKUS alliance? How AUKUS alliance emerged? Any idea? Now, earlier, before COVID, France and Australia signed an agreement where France would supply 6 conventional power submarine to Australia. So this was the original deal between France and Australia. What happened? US and UK entered into a picture and forced Australia to cancel its deal with France. And instead, US and UK agreed to supply Australia with nuclear submarines. So this led to emergence of an alliance, AUKUS, Australia, UK and US. So this is kind of a security alliance, like NATO, not in reality but in practice. So China is looking to present an alternative of this. So China says, come, we will cooperate, comprehensively cooperate and ensure sustainable security in the region. So you can understand it is a threat to India also. Now the core principles of this global security initiative that it will respect sovereignty and territorial integrity of all nations. Why do you think China is bringing this? Any idea? No problem, Kanchan. Why do you think China is bringing this? Because what was the accusation levied on China? That people were saying that China was violating our territorial integrity by coming into our borders, by entering our maritime borders. So China is trying to present a good face with this alliance. Similarly, it is looking to create an opposition for Cold War mentality and confrontation between blocs. It is wanting to create a dialogue and consultation to resolve conflicts and addressing both traditional and non-traditional security threats. What are non-traditional security threats? Cyber security, terrorism, pandemic, climate change, etc. And it is looking to provide indivisible security. That is, no country should pursue its own security at the expense of another's, right? Sabhi late join कर रहे हो क्या आज? Now the implementation, it will be managed a global security initiative concept paper. There was this concept paper brought by Chinese academics, which was issued by Ministry of Foreign Affairs in China, and it purports another initiatives of Chinese government like BRI, linkages it with SCO, BRICS, etc. Now whenever Apple brings a new technology or a new product, it tries to link it with existing products. Like if you buy iPhone, you'll have to buy Apple Cloud Storage, you'll have to buy or subscribe to Apple Music, Apple TV, right? Similarly, this is how China is trying to incorporate global security alliance by bringing all the members from existing bodies, right? Now, do you think India should join this alliance or not? Any idea? According to you, should India join this alliance or not? कोई तो बोलो. Why shouldn't we join? ऋषि, आई होप बारिश में बैठ के नहीं देख रहे हो सेशन, घर में बैठ के देख रहे हो. Well, the reason is not that we shouldn't join because we are in court. The reason is we shouldn't join because China's initiative like BRI, it goes through Indian territory, which is right now in possession of Pakistan, that is Pakistani occupied Kashmir. That China-Pakistan economic corridor flows through Gilgit-Baltistan as well as Pakistani occupied Kashmir, which are sovereign territory of India. So that is why until unless that issue is not resolved, we can't do so. Okay. So these kind of questions you can expect in the interview. They will try to test your conceptual understanding. We all know India shouldn't join, but what is the reason we are trying to give? That becomes important. You also should know why we are opposed to BRI. Sometimes, whenever they check your analytical understanding, why becomes more important than what? Because you know what is what, but you should also know why. Why? Yes, first is incorrect, second and third is right, and option B is the right answer. Yes. Now it's almost 11:55 and I'm out of energy. So I will cover the rest of the articles tomorrow. Okay, no need to worry. I basically am standing for the past 4 hours now. So I want to rest and have coffee and tea. I hope you understand my predicament and you'll excuse me today. Is it okay? Should I go? So, okay, I'll get this node uploaded. I'll also include the left out articles, but we'll cover it tomorrow. No need to worry. Okay? आस्क मी सेशन वेल तुम लोग आते तो हो नहीं आस्क मी एनीथिंग सेशन में पूछते बढ़ाओ यहाँ पर बट आई one of my colleagues asked me for the ask me session before the end of September. I told before the end of August I told him कोई आता नहीं है कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है. So we'll take ask me anything sessions whenever you want, but you have to promise me you'll have to all attend. 5-10 लोग आएंगे तो क्या फायदा ask me anything का. 5-10 क्वेरीज तो मैं मेल और ग्रुप पे भी दे सकता हूं ना. So okay, I'll conduct a poll in the group. I'll ask how many people would join, then we'll decide on it. Rishi, take care of your health, no problem. You can rest for 1 or 2 days, nothing would be left out. You can watch the sessions later on. Take care of your health. Bye bye everyone, have a good day.